when I first started shooting with a pistol, like most people in the world, I started off with Weaver. Then I ended up using isosceles because it was more effective. Then after that, I ended up using center axis relock because that was more effective. That's what I still use to this day. And in recent years, due to popular films such as John Wick, other movies like Suicide Squad, and video games such as Splinter Cell Conviction and Splinter Cell Blacklist, all of those contain the hero or some character using center axis relock. And with that came popularity, and with the popularity came controversy. So now there are people out there that are saying it's just some flashy technique that holds no actual merit and it's just supposed to look cool on film. Then there are other people like me that say, well, if it looks cool, alright, fair enough, but it also holds actual merit and value and is an effective system. But the issue is that most people that put up these YouTube videos have never had any proper formal training with center axis relock, and a lot of the stuff that they put out there is wrong, and so other people see that, and that's their first impression of center axis relock, and they write it off as being shit because of these improper techniques that they see online. So what I decided to do, being someone that has had former training in center axis relock, is give everyone out there a bit of pointers and demystify a couple of things with the system. And keep in mind, I'm already going to assume that you have had at least basic firearms training before watching this. Really, this is something that I would mostly give to people with advanced training. However, I would rather, if someone is going to learn from these YouTube videos anyway, even with basic training, well then I'd rather them learn from someone that's going to put all this in context like I'm going to do, rather than just learning from out of context videos. So, with that being said, in no particular order, what I want to talk about first is the grips, and I call them grips, not stances, because stance implies that you should be standing. My belief, and the belief of a lot of other like-minded people that practice center axis relock, don't like to stand, especially while we're being shot at, because, you know, it's very easy for someone else to shoot me if I'm standing still. I kind of like to avoid that while returning fire. So if we're sitting down, you know, in the prone position, crouched, you know, we're not really standing. And so I will refer to these as grips. And keep in mind, the other thing you should be aware of as well is that I am an Australian, and I'm still currently filming this in Australia. Years ago, we got fucked up the ass with a cactus when gun control hit our country. I am using a, you know, this isn't a real gun, this is a plastic gun with an ejectable magazine and a movable slide, so that I can still practice this. So if you need me to speak with a Texas accent or something like that, so that, you know, my credentials seem to match up to what I'm saying, well then, you know, let me know and I can make another video with the Texas accent. But yeah, keep in mind, the reason why I'm not using all these real weapons is because it is illegal in Australia to be taking out a gun and making videos like this in my bedroom. So, anywho, I digress. Alright, and one other thing, this is a 1911 model, I hate 1911s, and this is also a Serpa holster, I hate those as well. Reason being is because a lot of the times when people try drawing a pistol from a Serpa holster, they curve their finger like this and push in on this little lever as if it was a button, and as they draw the gun, they wind up getting a negligent discharge. And the other reason why I don't like Serpa holsters is because it virtually takes nothing to stop this mechanism. I'll give you a little example by doing something like this. Here, if I take a cotton bud, or Q-tip as they call it in America, and just put it in here like this, right? Well, now all of a sudden it's jammed really good and I can't get the gun out of there. So that's why I don't like these particular holsters. Of course it was the only one I could get, so that's what I'm using. Anyway, sorry to explain that, but I didn't want people judging me on the gun of my choice that I'm using in the video or the holster that I have. Now, grip number one, this is what's now called the close quarter position. And this is what it should look like. And as far as you being able to grip the gun, alright, gun should be held basically with this hand in what's called the pistol gripping hand. Should be gripped the way that you would expect it to be gripped, just like so, okay? Here's that from the other angle. And of course I'm not putting my finger on the trigger just yet. Now, the other hand comes up like this. Both of your thumbs should be together like so. Alright, thumbs not crossed over like this, not like this. Alright, both of the tips of the thumbs should be pushed together like this. What's happening on the other side is this. The top knuckle of the gun hand should not be covered up. Now, for most proficient shooters, you should already know that it's the first section of the index finger that should be covering the trigger, like so, and not curved all over like this. So what happens is that when people grip the gun like this and they'll cover up the top knuckle, they have a tendency to push against the trigger finger and it pushes it over like this. And so that's not what we want. So make sure that that top knuckle is not covered up and the hand is coming across like this. So that's what it looks like from this angle. Here's what it looks like from this angle. And as the founder of this system, Paul Castle, God rest his soul, he stated that when police officers are conducting a street interview, they sort of like stand in this position, whatever he called it, the bladed, harmonious, muscular, fucking whatever position. I couldn't really give a fuck what you call it, but basically you're learning to hold a gun in your hand while staying in the same position. And this position is to be used at a range from 0 to 5 feet. And again, see where my elbows are? You don't have your elbows out like this. The elbows should be brought back like this, so that they're not getting in the way of the line of fire. Every single time we're gripping the gun, we're using isometric pressure. So the support hand should be pulling in, whilst the gun hand should be pushing out. So I've got, from this position here, 2 ranges of pressure. Okay, so one going this way, the other one going the other way. What I want to do when I'm in the close quarter position, this used to be called the high position by the way, fucks me why, but anyway. So what I want to do from here is push my chest out a little bit and also pull in with the gun. So I've got 4 points of pressure. From this position, or this grip I should say, I have a really great recoil management. And that again from this position. Now, we also have another grip which we call the combat ready position. You may have seen me standing like that before. It's basically this. Again, as you can see, my thumbs are still together. So all I'm doing from here is moving up from this position to this position. So if I'm in like a real narrow corridor or something like that, and don't want the gun out here to get like some accidental discharge, say if someone runs out from behind the corner that I don't want to shoot, well, that's why we have this position here. So this is called the close quarter ready. And it doesn't take very long for me to get into this position up to here. And the other thing, someone else was asking me the other day about how to get that when drawing, because they're used to drawing from isosceles and coming out to something like this or like this, and they were wondering how it is that we can draw a gun like that and bring it so close to our body while bringing the other hand up without getting it in the line of fire. Good question, I'll explain it. And much like doing uppercut elbows like that, the in one class of Krav Maga that I'm currently attending, they say don't make a fist when doing this with the elbow. They say keep your hand as a palm and sort of like imagine like your Fonz from Happy Days and doing the Fonz as they call it when doing these ones. It's the very similar motion, if not the same motion, with the support hand. So as I draw the weapon like that, here's this in slow motion. Drawing the weapon and I'm bringing this hand across my body like so, alright? Here's it from this angle. And again from here, if I'm drawing the weapon like this. So I'm bringing it across my body like that, and as you can see, it doesn't end up in the line of fire. The next position that I want to talk about is the combat position. Used to be called the extended position. Don't care what you call it. It's not really important to me. However, I will call it the combat position from this point on. And this is to be used from a range of 6 feet to 30 feet. And here's how this works. Now, a lot of people have a lot of difficulty transitioning from this position up to this position. And one thing that I see a lot of the times where people generally make errors when they come to holding the gun is a bend in the wrist. There should never be a bend in the wrist. Now, what you want is, see where the position of my arms? Here's it from the front angle. I'll move to this side. Now I want you to focus on this arm here. Notice how there's no bend in my wrist like this or extended this way. It's straight. You can have a slight dip in the wrist this way or up like this if it's comfortable for you, but there shouldn't ever be a bend in the wrist this way. Same goes for the supporting hand. Now the supporting hand, this is the most common error I see where people holding it like that. This is incorrect. Alright? This is how you want it, so that the supporting hand wrist is also straight. And again, isometric pressure all the time. And here's that again from this angle. the other thing I want you to take into consideration is the positioning of my arms. Now, if I was to exaggerate this and move into the gangster position, notice how my forearms are in an exact 90-degree angle from each other. This one is vertical, whilst this one here is horizontal. If you see someone having a bit too much this way, a bit up like that, then it's wrong. It should be like this. And then what we're doing is just turning the gun to this angle. The other myth is that the gun is held at a 45-degree angle. It's not true. The gun should be held anywhere between 30 to 35 degrees, whatever's more comfortable for you. Now, obviously, in real life, you're not going to be there with a protractor going, fuck, am I doing it right? But the idea is that you try and replicate this as closely as possible in training so that you fuck up so much less when shit hits the fan for real. Anyway, so this is, again, the primary position. The front sight. Here's it from this angle. The front sight should be at your natural reading distance, okay? And there was someone that said that they, the slide came back and hit them in their eye protection. Look, when I say your natural reading distance, that it means your comfortable natural reading distance. So I don't mean if you have to rely on reading glasses to be able to read what your natural reading distance is without them, okay? We're not reading like here comfortably, so when I say your natural reading distance, that means whatever's comfortable for you. So if you read comfortably with reading glasses on, that's the natural reading distance. I feel like such a fucking idiot for having to explain something that I believe is obvious, but the world today, honestly. Okay, so now that we've established the front sight should be at my natural reading distance. If we want to push out to the, I'll move to this way here actually so that you kind of get a slightly better angle. If we want to push out to the apogee position, that was the older term as well and still the current term. So what we do, they say in the good book, and I'll use the bookshelf as an explanation. As you can see, the front sight is currently in the very middle of these two bookshelves. They say to push the front sight out and have the rear sight to where the front sight was. Personally, I think you can extend it a little bit further than that if you want to. I don't really care. But the gun is still, as you can see here from the front, at an angle. So here's it again in the combat position, and I'm pushing out to the apogee position. The only thing that changes here is the roll of the supporting hand. And by roll, I don't mean the roll as in the part that it plays. I mean roll as in the sense that I'm actually rolling it like so, or maneuvering it, whatever you want to call it. It's essentially just doing this motion. So when I'm moving out like this, I'm basically replicating isosceles. But the gun, from here, it's kind of like a cross between isosceles and weaver. So the thumb placement is exactly the same as isosceles. However, like weaver, there's a dip in the arm, in the support arm, like so. And that's what I'm doing when I turn the gun at this angle. So here we go. This supporting hand, there's a dip, same as weaver, and the thumb should be in the same position as if you were holding the gun in the isosceles position. And again, isometric pressure all the time. And really, that's the main difference between those ones. The only time when the arm structure should change is when going from this position and pushing it outwards to here. And there was some other little fine motor skill that was in the other system where they say if you have the time, you can get the pinky of your gun hand out and like sort of wrap it like this for support. I don't actually remember if it was that one or if it was with, no, yeah, it would have been that one, but I didn't bother remembering it because I thought, who the fuck's going to have time to do that under high pressure? This is really a fine motor skill, and if I need to drop the gun in a hurry, I want to be able to do that without any of this sort of like shit getting in the way. So really just pushing it out to here is good enough for me. Like I don't need to wrap the pinky around like so. The other thing, now this is the really important part. All of it's important, but this is an important part as far as the bend in the wrist. Most people have a difficult time transitioning from the high position, or the close quarter position, as they call it now, up to the extended position, or the combat position. I keep going back and forth between old terms. But, anywho, the reason why most people have a difficult time going from here up to here is because they have a habit of moving the gun in a straight line motion, which is going up like that. And as you can see, the reason when they go up like that is that you see this bend in the wrist, in the support arm. The frame of my arms should not change. So assuming you're doing this right and the elbows are back, what you want to do rather than moving the gun straight up like this is kind of move it in an ovalish motion. So as you can see where I'm doing this, the structure of my arms from here, they don't change. They remain exactly the same. So I'm moving my arms like so, from here, this angle again, moving up like this. So that's the main difference. You shouldn't be pushing the gun out like that because that's where most people have this habit of getting this bend in here. So as long as you don't change the structure of your arms from here, you should always be able to get this supporting arm into the correct position here and not here. So we've covered the close quarter ready, the close quarter, the combat position, and then apogee. The other one is the combat ready. It's basically just, and again, my structure of my arms don't change. I see a lot of people moving the wrists only down here. It's the entire arms that move down. So as I'm looking down the sights here, it doesn't take me very long to move the gun up to here to shoot something somewhere between, as I stated, 6 to 30 feet. The reason why I prefer doing this one and moving only this distance as opposed to all this distance if I'm using isosceles or one of the other more mainstream styles is because there's far less distance to cover. So from here to here, it's like, what? Far less than going all this distance here. The other thing that I wanted to point out is this. If the gun is in my right hand, which it currently is, I'm going to aim this at the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Now notice that the gun's in my right hand, I'm looking down the sights with my left eye. This is a ambidextrous shooting system, so if I change that and go to here, now the gun's in my left hand, I'm looking down the sights with my right eye. Having said that, both my eyes are kept open. Now the gun was in my was blocking that so you couldn't see it, but rest assured every single time both my eyes are open. Reason being is because when you close one eye, you lose a lot of vision on this side. So with this eye closed now, I'm going to move my hand about, okay. Right now is where I've lost sight of my hand. Now if I'm having my both eyes open, I can still see my hand, and about here is now where I've lost sight. And I'm always staring at my face on this camera, by the way, and I'm using an iPad to film this. So this is why I keep both my eyes open, so that we have as much peripheral vision as we can. The other good thing about the structure of the arms when doing this is that when, say, you're using isosceles, guys with big, broad shoulders, when they push in like this, not only are you getting a severe neck cramp when you duck down like that, but it pushes the whole chest area together and it restricts the breathing. And if you've ever taken a course where you need to use a lot of ammo and run around a little bit, trust me, you'll feel that loss of breath and the restriction of it when you do this a long time. But when you open up the body like so, it works in natural harmony with the body and it opens it up and you have a much wider area to be able to breathe effectively. The other thing I want to talk about now is reloads. And if you've watched any of the Paul Castle videos, you'll know how quickly you can get a reload in. Okay, when it comes to reloading the weapon, now with this gun is the one I say use for training, I've currently got an empty magazine for it. The other one that I've got currently has these little rubber training rounds in there. And when it comes to using the magazine, the bullet tip should be aiming forward. So as you can see here, alright, pay attention to the way that I'm having the magazine, okay? Having it aiming this way, so bullet should be aiming directly in front of me. I'm a really big fan of the magazine pouches that allow you to carry two. Having said that, I don't like the magazine pouches that look like this one. Basically, one magazine fits in it and the bullet's aiming this way, the other one's facing in it but the bullet's aiming the other direction. I like having magazine pouches where both bullets are aiming directly in front of me, assuming it's on the left-hand side. Obviously, you need to swap it around if you're left-handed and rather have your loads on your right-hand side. Now, when it comes to reloading, I see a lot of people reloading guns in lots of different ways, but this is the way that I prefer to do it and why. When it comes to getting the magazine out, what I like to do first of all is flip the gun this way so that the handle of the gun is aiming to the outside of my body, or rather my dead side as we could call it. The dead side being this side, the live side being this side. So I'll flip it this way and then flip it inwards, because when I want to reload, not only do I want the section of the gun where the magazine goes aiming towards where I need to put it, but I also want the ejection port aiming downwards. But that double flick will help get the magazine out. If it doesn't eject properly and it's sort of like hanging about this far out, You can use your own hands to sort of prod it out before getting the other magazine in, or if it's got a, or if this part of the magazine is long enough, then you can just use the magazine itself to sort of strip that out before getting another round in. But I'm sort of getting a little bit ahead of myself here, so for that I apologize. Anywho, now, when it comes to reloading the gun, what I like to do, let's say fire the bang 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 bang, there's the final click, and this gun doesn't have injection, sorry, the slide won't stay back on its own, so just pretend like it is. Alright, so I've fired all the rounds that I've got, so I'll flick the gun outwards and then inwards, so it should look like that. Now the gun's free of the magazine. What I want to do is have this elbow locked into my rib cage. Reason being that I don't want to have it out here or in front of me in the, what some people call is the like the power box or the window box or frame box, whatever the fuck. Basically, it's essentially meaning the gun's here where you can see it. I can do this with my eyes closed. See, I don't need to be able to see the gun. What I need is kind of a bit of tactile sensitivity. I don't remember the exact scientific word for this, which, you know, may make me seem like a really crappy instructor for this, but names of things aren't really that important to me. It's how you do something that is important. And there's this thing in science which is basically means where the body can tell, well, the human brain can tell where other parts of your body are without you looking at them. So, meaning that if you do this with your hand and close your eyes and you can basically point your finger in through that hole. And I know a lot of people are going to make jokes from this motion, but you get my point. Pun intended. No. Okay, but it's kind of a similar motion with what we do with these reloads. So what you want to do when you grab the magazine is use your index finger and just cover the tip of the round like so. Not like this, just at the front like that. And when you grab it as well, basically the palm sort of like lands on the top of it and then you take it out like this. What you're doing now is pointing with your index finger towards the hole of your hand that you're gripping the gun with. And the reason why the elbow is locked in the rib cage is because if I'm firing and whatever and then I need to reload the gun while on the move, it's much easier for me to do that with my elbow locked in here where the gun has less room to move around. Really, that's about it. So, elbow should always be in the same place, and if you keep practicing with the elbow always in the same place, the gun will generally always be in the same place. If you're reloading the way a lot of other guys do, where they'll fire from here, then they'll eject the magazine, and then get another round in this way here, I just see a lot more room for error in that when moving around in combat. So, for me, I'll always have my elbow locked in like this, and again, with the ejection port aiming downwards. Now, there's a couple of other little things that you can do with this as well. This isn't really something that I needed to put into this video, but I'm going to do it anyway because why not? And I'll give credit when credit is due. This other technique that I learned was shown to me by a police officer by the name of Rick. I don't know his surname, but he's an American police officer and he works very closely with Paul Castle, the founder of Center Access Relock, up to and including the point where he sadly passed away of cancer. And the original technique when using a pistol and a flashlight, and don't really think I need to have this flashlight on actually, so I'll switch it off. But when using a flashlight with center access relock, the original way of holding the gun was like this, and the supporting hand would just be held underneath like so. The issue with that is that there was very little recoil control on the pistol this way. So what Rick decided to do was to bring the hands like this and again still apply that isometric pressure. And from here, yeah, you can still look down the gun with the left eye if it's in the right hand and vice versa and still be able to operate effectively. And this does give you a very stable recoil management or recoil platform, whatever the fuck it is that they call it these days. There's so many terms for guns and gun related stuff. But anyway, so this is the one that he showed me and I quite like it. So now I'm going to show it to other people as well if they want to learn center access relock, or if you're already learning center access relock but aren't familiar with this particular technique. This works the same way as well if you have a knife in the hand. Just remember to make sure not to cross the blade of the knife over into the line of fire, okay? Especially if it's a long, what I like to call an overcompensating knife. So you can hold the knife this way, or you can hold the knife this way as well, if necessary, okay? Same principles apply with a karambit. The other thing that I'll mention is that you can also use Center Access Relock with pepper spray. I don't have any pepper spray because that's illegal, however I do have this can of bug spray. So the way to use that again is having the thumbs like so, and just having your index finger on the top. I used to use my thumb and just hold bug spray cans like this, but I try and make a habit of doing this now, just so I'm always in the habit of holding a spray can this way. The only difference is from here it might be a bit too big for you to wrap your hand all the way around, so just have it where it's comfortable. Focus on your thumbs, they should be the primary point of contact. For pistols as well, by the way. One of the things that I figured out in Center Access Relock that I found quite useful for me, there's kind of a pro and a con with it. The con is that it involves using one hand. The pro is that you'll be able to prolong the life of your hearing. Now, if you've never fired a gun before without hearing protection in a like a narrow hallway or some enclosed environment, you don't know the definition of the word loud. And here's the thing. If I do have the time to cover up my ears, I want to do that. And here's the way that I prefer to do that, and it still works if I'm holding the gun in Center Access Relock. So I'll have the gun out here, or maybe a bit closer. Generally speaking, it'll be pushed out into the more apogee position, but single-handedly. Now, I'm going to aim it at the camera here while I'm talking about this, so bear with me. Now, what I want to do, and don't talk about how stupid this looks, don't really care. My hearing is more important than style. Now, in order to cover up this ear, what I want to do is bend my head down and use my shoulder to cover that ear, like this. Alright? So whatever hand the gun is in, my head will be tilted to that position. And as you can see, I can still look down the sights with my left eye. This other hand will just cover my ear, like so. And then from here, I can fire the weapon and also get some hearing protection. And depending on the person, you may have really big shoulders. You may even have, for whatever reason, you might be in some SWAT unit or some sort of law enforcement where you have those sturdy shoulder pads. So on this side, you may not be able to get sufficient hearing protection with that one. But even if you can just cover up one ear, that's still better than nothing. But anyway, all in all, this is just what I found worked really well for me. You can try that as well and see if it's effective for you. But yes, when you're at the shooting range, obviously always use shooting protection. But if you are at a shooting range and decide to take the earplugs out and cover up like this to see how well it works for you, well, I'm not going to say do it. I'm also not going to say you shouldn't do it either. I'll leave that up to your discretion. The other advantage of Center Access Relock, and I'll use my chair to demonstrate this, is that, now imagine that I'm in a car. Now, I'm just going to say that I'm on the left-hand side of the car in the front. If you're in Australia, that's the passenger side. If you're in America, that's obviously the driver's side. So that's why I'm just not going to say passenger or driver side. I'm just going to say left-hand side. So if I'm here and I need to shoot out of the window at some other target, rather than if I need to lean down like this and look down the sides, I'm going to actually aim this at the camera. So see here? Pay attention to how much of my body that you can see. Now if I move like this here, I've got a very clear shot at the camera, but there's less of me that you can see. But if I need to line that up comfortably with the more traditional like isosceles or even Weaver, then I need to move more of my body out. But moving in here, this is about as close in to cover that I can get in this position. Whereas here, well, yeah, as you can see, there's a lot more of me that I can conceal. Same story if I'm leaning behind cover like this. I'm currently crouched if it wasn't obvious, but alright, so if I'm moving out of cover like here, I'm going to aim at the camera. So I'm moving out of cover in the more traditional like isosceles position. This is how much of me you can see from here. If I now move to Center Access Relock, moving around, see? You can see much less of me. One last thing I want to talk about, just on the off chance someone brings it up, and that is in John Wick Chapter 2, towards the very end, he was holding the gun out and at the combat position, although his thumb placement was like this. So if anyone asks me why he was holding the gun that way, I don't know. At least in the Center Access Relock, when I was learning it, that's not something that I was taught, so that one's new to me. All I can think of is that some other instructor that was learning center access relock decided to evolve the system and incorporate that. I can't imagine why. Or the people that were choreographing the fight scenes decided to modify it that way for whatever reason. I mean, it's possible in that Jennifer Lopez movie Enough, she learned Krav Maga to defend against her ex, but she had her palms up straight like this, and the reason why they did that allegedly is because it looked better on screen, whereas in reality the finger's supposed to be curved, and some instructors say have the fingers aiming at your opponent's eyes if you can, so if you need to put in a quick eye gouge, it's much easier to do that as opposed to the hands like so. So like I said, it's possible that it could have been a producer, director, fight scene choreographer decision, or it could have been, yeah, the fact that it was a different instructor that taught center access relock in a more different or modified way to when I was learning it. But the only reason I can think of as to why they may have it like this is because the supporting arm elbow is tucked into the rib cage and there's less room for the gun to go as opposed to here. But the reason why I prefer having this be allowed to have that dip is for if I need to be in combat and go straight from here to combat ready. Whereas if I can't do that from here, unless I bend the wrist, but as I already established, I don't like doing that. So, yeah. Keep in mind, at the end of the day, it's also a movie, and the center access relook and that was supposed to look flashy, but in real life it's never going to look that flashy, just like how Kung Fu in real life doesn't look that stylish as it does in Kung Fu martial arts films. Well, that concludes the video, and keep in mind, this was only supposed to be a video about just the basics, okay? There are more advanced things I could talk about, like, you know, John Wick, like if you saw the first movie where he's in the nightclub, some bad guy that doesn't even have a name tag, so he stood no chance. Goldmember reference. You know, he took cover behind the pole. John Wick sees the guy's foot sticking out, so he looks around and, you know, has the gun upside down and shoots the guy in the foot to bring him out of the cover. Yeah, there's a reason as to why we hold the gun upside down and not this way, but this wasn't a video that was supposed to be done about advanced techniques. It was just the basic techniques that I either see people doing wrong, or that other people that don't know anything about center access relock were generally curious about and always ask me questions on. So, all in all, hopefully you found this video helpful. If you didn't know anything about it, hopefully it answered your questions. If you do have any other particular or specific questions about this system, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. That's what it's there for. Ask me about it, and I'll try and answer your question as best I can through typing. If I feel like it's a question that deserves its own video, then fuck it, I'll make a video on it. Yeah, all in all, thank you for watching and stay safe.